Here is another example that's actually more complicated than what we'll normally encounter in class. So I would consider this an optional exercise, but it's helpful because it really forces us to think about how to put these functions together. So what we have here is a ramp that goes up at time 0. It levels off at time 1, starts heading down again at time 2, and then levels off at time 3. And the first part we can write as a ramp with a slope of 10, where it starts at time 0 and then starts having a slope of 10. And the way we write this is it's 10t times a unit step, not shifted at all. Then we're going to add something to this function, or actually subtract something, which is at time 1, we're going to have a function that starts heading down at a slope of 10, minus 10. And the way we write this is going to be minus 10 times t, except our ramp now has been shifted to the right, so we write t minus 1. And we also want it to be 0 for all time before 1, so we multiply that by a unit step shifted to the right by 1. Then we're going to have another subtraction, and this is going to happen at time 2, similarly with a slope of minus 10. And so we expect something to be doing something like this. Again, it has a slope of minus 10, and we write this as minus 10, a ramp shifted to the right by 2, and it needs to be 0 for all time before 2. And then let's add the last part, which is we expect that we need to increase the slope again with a positive increase, and this is going to be starting at time 3. We need this to be heading upward with the slope of 10. And the way we write this is plus 10t, a ramp shifted to the right by 3, and starting guaranteed to be 0 for all time before 3. So we can write this as the sum of all of these things. So we would say this is 10t times 1 of t minus 10 quantity t minus 1 multiplied by the unit step shifted to the right, minus 10 t minus 2 times a unit step shifted to the right by 2, plus 10 t minus 3 quantity times a unit step shifted by 3. Of course, we can also write the whole thing as a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals, where it's going to be 0, it's going to be equal to t, and then it's going to be equal to 1, and then it's going to be 3 minus t, and then finally 0. This is for time before 0, time between 0 and 1, time between 1 and 2, and then time between 2 and 3, and then finally time anytime greater than or equal to 3. We can also write this as a series of intervals. So another way we can think of it is the 5 intervals, which I'll write as time before 0, time between 0 and 1, between 1 and 2, between 2 and 3, and for time greater than or equal to 3. And the values are, first of all, it's 0 for all time less than 0, and then it's going to just be a ramp function, except with a slope of 10 for time between 0 and 1. Then it's going to be just 10 for the period between 1 and 2, and then it's going to be headed downward at a slope of negative 10, and this time it requires a little bit of thought, but you can verify that if you put in t minus 3, that will produce the downward slope, And then for time greater than or equal to 3, we have 0.